The plasma storm raged across Titan's surface, battering the reinforced dome of forward operating base Cerberus with electromagnetic fury that made the metal walls sing like a tortured violin. Inside the command bunker, buried 30 meters beneath the frozen methane lakes, Colonel Mia Bell stared at the holographic display showing Earth's quarantine perimeter, a web of alien surveillance platforms that hadn't moved in 3 years. 3 years since the Hegemony Council had declared humanity a Category Ven containment species. 3 years of being caged in their own solar system like dangerous animals. Still nothing from the diplomatic channels, reported Lieutenant Commander Tristan Shaw, his cybernetic eye interface flickering as he passed through the endless stream of rejected communication attempts. The Vorth had installed the implant after the Battle of Europa, where shrapnel had cost him his left eye and half his skull. Now the synthetic components glowed a dull blue when he accessed military networks. Bell nodded without looking away from the display. At 42, she carried the weight of humanity's military resistance on her shoulders, lean frame hardened by years of combat, graying hair pulled back in regulation style, and eyes that had seen too many friends die fighting an unwinnable war. The scar running from her left temple to her jaw was a souvenir from the Proxima Station massacre, where she'd been one of only 12 survivors out of 8,000 personnel. "They're not interested in talking," she said. "The Hegemonies made their position clear. We're too aggressive, too unpredictable. Better to keep us locked up until we either evolve or extinct ourselves." The command center buzzed with quiet activity. Technicians monitored long-range sensors, communication specialists attempted to break through the alien jamming fields, and tactical officers updated threat assessments on 17 different species that comprised the Hegemony Council. On the main screen, Jupiter hung like a swirled marble against the black, its great red spot slowly rotating, a storm that had raged for centuries, hiding secrets the aliens would never suspect. "Ma'am," called out Sergeant Torres from the communications array, her Martian accent thick with concern. "We're picking up increased chatter from the Hegemony monitoring stations. Something's got them agitated." Bell moved to Torres's station, studying the cascading data streams. The signals were encrypted in quantum-locked Hegemony standard, but the frequency patterns suggested elevated alert status across all containment platforms. Time frame. Started about 6 hours ago. Pattern suggests they detected something unusual in the outer system. Shaw joined them, his artificial eye cycling through various spectrum analyses. "Could be a probe malfunction. Their tech isn't perfect." "No," Bell said, studying the data flows. "This is different. Look at the distribution pattern. They're pulling resources inward, tightening the net around the inner planets." A new alert chimed across the command center. On the tactical display, red icons began appearing throughout the solar system as Hegemony vessels adjusted their positions. The containment fleet, over 300 ships of various configurations, was repositioning for something. "What the hell are they responding to?" Shaw muttered. Bell's expression hardened. "They found something." Deep within Jupiter's roiling atmosphere, pressure and temperature conditions that would liquefy steel and crush titanium in seconds, something stirred. The great red spot, a storm system larger than Earth itself, began to shift in ways that defied meteorological explanation. What the aliens monitoring from their distant posts couldn't see, what their sensors interpreted as natural atmospheric disturbance, was actually the slow awakening of humanity's greatest secret. Project Olympus had been 40 years in the making. Started during the early days of human expansion, when Earth's governments realized that conflict with alien civilizations was inevitable. Olympus represented the single largest engineering project in human history. A mobile battle station the size of a city, constructed in the crushing depths of Jupiter's atmosphere using self-replicating assemblers and materials harvested from the planet's own metallic core. Now, as alien ships tightened their grip around Earth, Jupiter's eye was finally opening. Commander David Park stood on the observation deck of the Olympus command spire, watching through reinforced transparent aluminum as the massive structure began its ascent through Jupiter's atmospheric layers. Around him, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. Men and women who had spent their entire careers on this project, training for a war they'd hoped would never come. Atmospheric pressure at 1200 Earth standard and falling, reported Chief Engineer Lisa Ishida, her hands dancing across haptic interfaces as she monitored the station's ascent systems. Hull integrity holding. Inertial dampeners at maximum output. Park nodded, his weathered face reflected in the transparent aluminum barrier. At 55, he was one of the last veterans of the Centauri expedition, humanity's first disastrous encounter with alien civilization. The scar tissue covering his left arm was a permanent reminder of hegemony plasma weapons, and the reason he'd volunteered for this posting in the first place. Time to surface breach. 14 hours at current ascent rate, Ishida replied. Stealth fields are holding. We're still registering as atmospheric disturbance to external sensors. For now, Park said grimly. Once we break the cloud layer, there'll be no hiding what we are. Behind him, the tactical station chimed with an incoming transmission. Lieutenant Maya Kim, the ship's communications officer, looked up with surprise. Sir, we are receiving a coded burst from Terra Command. Priority Alpha. On speakers. Colonel Bell's voice crackled through the atmospheric interference. Olympus Actual. This is Cerberus Command. Hegemony Fleet is repositioning for full containment lockdown. Timeline has been accelerated. You are weapons-free for Operation Thunder God. Repeat, weapons-free. Park closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of what those words meant. Thunder God wasn't just a military operation, it was humanity's declaration that they would rather die fighting than live in a cage. Acknowledged, Cerberus. Olympus is moving to attack configuration. Thunder God is a go. Around the massive battle station, systems that had lain dormant for years began to hum with deadly purpose. Quantum cannons the size of skyscrapers slowly rotated into firing position. Gravitic pulse generators started their charge cycles. And deep in the station's core, the hegemony's greatest nightmare, a weapon they didn't even know existed, prepared for activation. Aboard the hegemony command vessel Eternal Wisdom, Fleet Commander Zektar studied the holographic display showing Sol System with growing unease. The Kresh had evolved from a species of pack hunters, and despite millennia of civilization, his predatory instincts remained sharp. Something was wrong here. Status of the containment net? He asked his aide, a young Vorth officer whose crystalline carapace gleamed under the bridge's blue lighting. All platforms reporting normal function, Commander, replied Sub-Lieutenant Nalesh, her translator converting her harmonic speech into standard hegemony common. Perimeter integrity at 97% efficiency. Zektar's forearms gestured dismissively. The Kresh had never trusted statistics when their gut told them otherwise. What about the atmospheric disturbance on the gas giant? Monitoring stations classify it as standard meteorological variance. The human designation is Jupiter, a sphere of compressed gases with no strategic value. No strategic value. Zektar repeated the words, tasting their wrongness. In his 30 years of military service, he'd learned that humans were uniquely gifted at hiding strategic value where others saw none. Double the surveillance platforms around that world. I want full spectrum analysis every 6 standard time units. Commander, with respect, the humans have been contained for 3 cycles. Their longest-range vessels can barely reach their outer planetary satellites. What possible threat could... The threat of underestimating them. Zektar snarled, his voice taking on the subsonic harmonics that indicated extreme displeasure. "These creatures conquered 6 worlds before we managed to cage them. They fought 4 different hegemony species to standstills. And you think 3 years of containment has somehow made them harmless?" Nalesh's carapace shifted to deep blue, a color indicating fear among her species. "Orders understood, Commander. Doubling surveillance." But even as the young officer transmitted the commands, both she and Zektar knew it was too late. The storm was already rising from the depths, and Jupiter was about to show them exactly why humans had been feared across a dozen star systems. The first indication that something had changed came as a subtle shift in gravitational readings. Hegemony sensors, designed to detect everything from asteroid impacts to quantum fluctuations, registered a mass anomaly rising from Jupiter's lower atmosphere. At first, the readings seemed impossible. Something with the density of a small moon was moving upward through gas layers that should have been empty space. On Olympus, Park watched through the observation deck as they broke through the final cloud layer. What emerged from Jupiter's depths was a sight that would have driven early human astronomers to madness. A structure so vast it defied comprehension, its angular surfaces covered in weapon emplacements that could have served as cities. "Surface breach complete," Ishida reported, her voice tight with awe despite having worked on the project for decades. "All systems showing green. Olympus is fully operational." Park activated the station-wide communication system. "All hands, this is command. We have achieved surface breach. Initiate combat configuration Alpha. This is not a drill." Throughout the massive structure, blast shields retracted from weapon ports. Docking bays opened to reveal fighter squadrons that had been waiting years for this moment. And in the deepest sections of the station, something far more dangerous than conventional weapons began to wake up. The hegemony response was immediate and overwhelming. Within minutes of Olympus becoming visible to their sensors, every available ship in the containment fleet was moving toward Jupiter. The sight that greeted them defied every assumption they'd held about human technological capability. "By the 7 suns," whispered Commander Zektar as the tactical display updated with Olympus's full dimensions. "It's not a ship, it's a battle station. How long have they been building this?" Estimated construction time. Nalesh's carapace had shifted to the deep purple that indicated complete bewilderment. Based on observed mass and complexity, minimum 40 standard cycles. "Commander, they were building this before we even made contact with their species." Zektar's predatory instincts screamed danger. Humans didn't just build weapons, they built traps. And something about this entire situation felt like they were walking into the largest trap in galactic history. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Full assault formation. Launch all fighters. I want that thing destroyed before—" The transmission cut off as Olympus fired its first shot. The quantum cascade cannon was humanity's answer to hegemony shield technology. Rather than trying to overwhelm enemy defenses with brute force, it simply negated the quantum fields that made those defenses possible. The invisible beam lanced out across space, striking the lead hegemony dreadnought with pinpoint precision. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The massive alien vessel continued on its approach vector, its shields shimmering with confidence. Then reality reasserted itself, and 40,000 tons of military spacecraft suddenly occupied the same space as its own defensive fields. The explosion lit up Jupiter's night side like a second sun. "Direct hit on target primary," reported Weapons Officer Commander Mia Cross, her voice professionally calm despite the magnitude of what they'd just accomplished. "Quantum cascade achieved full effect. Target destroyed." Park nodded grimly. "One down. 299 to go. All batteries, engage at will. Fighter wings, launch when ready. Today we show them why humanity doesn't stay in cages. What followed was perhaps the most one-sided space battle in galactic history. The Hegemony fleet, designed to maintain a blockade against primitive human spacecraft, found themselves facing technology that was decades ahead of their own. Quantum cascade cannons tore through their strongest shields like paper. Gravitic pulse weapons turned their formations into debris fields, and when the aliens tried to retreat, they discovered that Olympus had another surprise waiting. The gravity well generator was housed in the station's core, a device so powerful it could create artificial mass shadows across an entire star system. As Hegemony ships tried to escape to faster-than-light speed, they found their jump drives failing, trapped by gravitational forces that shouldn't exist. "Commander," called Lieutenant Kim from the communications station, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 Hegemony vessels. They're offering to negotiate." Park's expression didn't change. "Tell them to direct their communications to Earth. We're done being contained." But even as Olympus demonstrated humanity's hidden strength, Park knew this was just the beginning. The Hegemony Council controlled hundreds of worlds and thousands of ships. Today's victory would bring retaliation on a scale that would make the original containment look merciful. In her bunker on Titan, Colonel Bell watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The trap had worked perfectly. The aliens had focused all their attention on containing humanity's known capabilities while remaining blind to what they'd built in secret. But she also knew that Zektar was right about one thing. Humans excelled at being underestimated. "Ma'am," Torres called out, "we're receiving transmissions from the outer colonies. Proxima Centauri, Wolf 359, even the deep space stations are reporting Hegemony withdrawal. Word is spreading fast." Bell nodded. The psychological impact of Olympus's reveal would be as important as its military capabilities. For 3 years, human colonies had lived under the threat of alien intervention. Now they knew that Earth hadn't abandoned them, hadn't forgotten them. "What about diplomatic channels?" "Still jammed, but we're detecting increased chatter on Hegemony military frequencies. They're calling for reinforcements from the core worlds," which meant they had perhaps weeks before the real war began. Olympus was powerful, but it was still just one station against an empire that spanned half the galaxy. They needed allies, and Bell had an idea of where to find them. "Get me a secure channel to the Centauri resistance. It's time to see if our neighbors are interested in joining a revolution." On Olympus, Park stood before the massive display showing local space. Where once a Hegemony containment fleet had enforced humanity's imprisonment, now only debris fields remained. But he took no satisfaction in the victory. Each destroyed ship represented hundreds of alien lives, beings who were following orders, maintaining a system they believed protected the galaxy from human aggression. "Sir," Commander Cross approached hesitantly, "quantum cascade capacitors are recharged. We could target the remaining monitoring stations, clear the entire containment network." Park considered the suggestion. It would be tactically sound. Eliminate the Hegemony's ability to track human movements, buy them time to prepare for the coming retaliation. But it would also cement humanity's reputation as the galaxy's greatest threat. "Negative," he decided. "We've made our point. Let them report what they've seen. Sometimes the threat of power is more useful than power itself." What none of them realized was that the battle around Jupiter had been observed by more than just Hegemony forces. In the depths of space, ancient sensors belonging to the precursors, the vanished race that had built the galaxy's hyperspace network, had recorded everything. And deep in abandoned sectors where no modern species dared venture, machines that had slept for millions of years began to stir. Humanity had revealed their hand, demonstrated that they possessed technology rivaling the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, but they had also attracted the attention of powers far older and more dangerous than the Hegemony Council. Jupiter's great red spot continued to churn, no longer hiding humanity's greatest weapon, but serving as a symbol of something else. The eye of a storm that was about to engulf the entire galaxy. The cage had been broken, the prisoners had shown their strength, and now the real test would begin. In the depths of space, ancient things were waking up, and they remembered the last time a young species had developed quantum cascade technology. It hadn't ended well for anyone. End of Part 1. Military Technology Specifications. Olympus Battle Station. Length 47 kilometers. Mass 2.310 circumflex 15 kg. Primary armament 12 quantum cascade. Cannons, secondary systems 400 Sartre gravitic pulse batteries. Fighter complement 2,000 combat craft. Crew 50,000 personnel. Construction time 40 years concealed within Jupiter's atmosphere. Quantum cascade cannon. Function. Negates quantum field coherence in target matter. Range 0.3 light seconds effective. Power requirements 1.210 circumflex 18 watts per shot. Recharge time 4.7 minutes. Gravity. Well generator. Effect. Creates artificial mass shadows preventing FTL escape. Range 12 AU radius. Power source. Controlled antimatter annihilation. Side effects. Temporal distortion within 0.1 AU of generator. The war for humanity's freedom had begun, but the galaxy held secrets that would challenge everything both species thought they knew about the universe itself.